I heard a story recently. I was listening to Ric Flair's show that he has, and he was talking about the night that Dusty, that the Horseman, broke Dusty's leg in the arena, and I want
Yeah,
to
the
say
Omni.
the Omni. I want to say he told a story about you trying to get into the cage, and they literally thought you were a fan, so they they were fighting you like you were a fan. They didn't even realize because they were so held up in the cage. Do you recall that story at all, or
Yeah,
anything?
what it was, okay, back then, and it was an unwritten rule to where, if the guys ran to the ring, get your shirt off, so security and the other guys would know you were one of the guys or one of the wrestlers.
Okay.
And I had just gotten dressed. I didn't know what was going on. I was all dressed up in my stuff and everything. And all of a sudden, being I'm running to the ring, I didn't rip my shirt off, you know. And it took me like when I jumped, because it was a cage. When I jumped up, latched onto that cage, and zip zip, I was over the top of it
Right.
and coming through. And boy, I wish I took that shirt off.
what what happened from there when you got
Oh, it was a fight for my life, brother. Fight for
yeah.
my life. You know,
I
but
believe it. They talk about the stories. The horsemen talk about the stories of it took hours for them to get out that cage that night because of the fans that were trying to get in because everybody saw Dusty getting his leg broken and people just lost it.
oh
Uh,
yeah.
so yeah,
Well,
man, give me some perspective of
let
that
me
night.
tell you about. Okay, the first, like when I was a little kid, my dad was wrestling Bruiser Bob Sweetcan in Baton Rouge in a
Right.
cage match. And
Okay.
when Dad come out of the cage, the people at the old Independence Hall, the risers, they were only on one side, and they kind of like followed the levee all the way up. It was built kind of like that. And the people, they had these chairs, these metal chairs, but they weren't the steel folding chairs. They were these metal chairs that were, just chairs with padded seats and stuff.
I know. Yeah, I know
Well,
exactly which ones you're talking about. They're not.
yeah,
They're kind of like I'll call them ballroom chairs or whatever, but they're really not.
yeah,
They're but
that's
they're
kind of what.
metal. Yeah, metal legs and stuff. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, well, the people started picking those. They picked those chairs up and they filled the ring with them. And I'm talking about they were chest high. And Sweetan was in the ring, and he was and Randy Tyler, Rip Tyler, Tiger Don Duffy, and another guy. I can't remember the last guy. I think it was Jerry Miller. Had to leave. They left the dressing room. Had to fight their way to the ring. Well, my dad tried to get back to the ring, and the people swarmed my dad, and they said, "We got him now, Grizzly." And they were. I believe they were trying to kill that man. But the other four wrestlers, they fought their way to the ring, got Sweetan out of the cage, and then got him back. A cage can be a safe thing, or it can be a very dangerous thing. It just depends on what side of it you're on.
So when you that night with the horsemen when they were breaking Dusty's legs, so when you get you scale that cage and you're in a fight for your life, they literally don't realize who you are because you're clothed like a fan.
Yeah, yeah. I had my Western shirt on, my jeans, and I had short. Now it'd be, you'd say, "Oh, look at all that hair." Yeah, that's him.
Right,
But
right.
back then, I looked like just anybody else. Plus, I was young and skinny. I hadn't filled out yet or anything. So yeah, it got a little rough. But yeah, I mean, it was a bad situation. Um, because the people want to get to you. I mean, there was so much heat in that territory. The horsemen, I mean, Arn, Ole, Tully, and Flair. I mean, these are four of the top guys in the world that know how to get out there and do their job and perform well. And that's what they did. And they had the people were and Dusty was so loved that the fans were. It was just a frenzy, you know. I've been in
Yeah,
riots.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been in riots before, and I mean, this wasn't a riot because all the people weren't fighting each. All their focus was focused on the horsemen.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, You said it when you said back then, man, that the territory was hot. The people loved Dusty. The Four Horsemen were hated. I mean, it was a toxic brew related to ready for people to riot, and they were in there breaking their favorites' legs. So,
Right, and
yeah,
I'm going to tell you something about wrestling fans. Wrestling fans, to me, are I mean, it's not like any other sport. A wrestling fan will fight for you if they love you.
yeah,
A wrestling fan's got your back if they love you.
yeah,
There's no better fan in the world than a wrestling fan.
yeah. That's true. Because I say it all the time on the show. It's an emotional investment. When they have that emotional investment, and you can go back and watch some of those old. They're on the WWE network now. But you can go back and watch some of those old clips. I'll give you an example. I just happened to turn one on from the old TBS Saturday Night Show one day. I don't know, maybe 2-3 months ago, and the opening clip of the Saturday Night Show was when Black Bart defeated you for the NWA Mid Atlantic Heavyweight Championship. And
Yeah, he
those
did that.
fans.
Well,
Go
that
ahead,
was
go
in
ahead, go ahead.
Mooresville, Oklahoma, where he did that. That's where he dropped the leg on the top on my on the back of my head when I was coming through the ring. I remember that match. I've always wanted to see a clip of that, but I've never seen that. But I was
It's
coming through the ropes, and is that the one?
I think that's the one. I'd have to go look. I'd have to go back and look because that's they only show the ending of it
Right.
on this TBS Saturday Night clip. But I had to look, and then what I'll do is I'll send you a message if I can find
Yeah,
the
what
whole
had
clip.
happened was he threw me out of the ring. I hit the floor, and when I was coming back in the ring, I was crawling back in, and when I stuck, he had jumped up on the second turnbuckle, and as I was coming through, he jumped off the second turnbuckle and dropped the leg. Did the compactor is what he called it. He did that, and he dropped the leg on the back of my head, and it clotheslined me right across the throat on the second rope. And I think
Right.
I flopped back down to the floor, and then he grabbed me. He jumped out, grabbed me, and threw me back in, and then covered me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good because Nelson Royal was from Mooresville, North Carolina, and Nelson at that time was my tag team partner. Nelson had been a lifelong friend to me and everything.
Right.
And Nelson he was a world junior heavyweight champion, and you had Dusty and Magnum together all the time, and then you had me, and I was kind of like the third man out or the odd man out. So they brought Nelson came back. I believe he went to the office because he'd known me since I was a little kid. I used to rodeo up at his place in Mooresville, catching when I was a little kid, catching calves and pigs and having to drag them back across the line. But Nelson taught me how to bulldog and rope and everything else. So, the people in Mooresville loved me. And that's where that happened, and yeah, it was something that night.
Well, and the reason I bring it up is the crowd, like anything else during that time period, was hot.
Oh
You
yeah,
can't explain it to a wrestling fan nowadays. I can't explain that to my 10 going on 11-year-old who watches pro wrestling. I can't even begin to explain the emotion and the highs and the lows that would come with fans of wrestling during that time frame because it was just a different era of how
oh
the
yeah.
fans
Well,
viewed it.
okay, let's look at it like this. If you're watching a horse race on TV, you're just watching a horse race. You might get up a little bit, but if you're at the racetrack itself, oh yeah, you're hollering at the top of your lungs. If you're watching a wrestling match at home on TV, you're sitting there quiet, and there might be an ooh or an ah, but when you're there in it, and that's the part about being at an event. When you're there in it, you're part of that event.